Hello and welcome back to the Mighty Chaos Podcast. I'm your host and storyteller, Therese Hicks, and tonight we'll be getting into the chilling urban legend of the Phantom Hitchhiker on Highway 12 from Wisconsin, followed by cozy book talk and random chaos to wrap it up. New here? Grab a snack and blanket. This is your spot for horror tales, urban legends, book chats, and random chaos, and real conversations where everyone feels at home and belongs. Now let's get into the story time of the Phantom Hitchhiker on Highway 12. Highway 12 cuts through a dark and wooded stretch between Madison and the towns of Baraboo and Suka City in Wisconsin. Late at night, drivers spot him, a silent man in a green army jacket, blue jeans, and a hat, walking the foggy shoulder. You pass him, heart beating a little faster, and you keep going. But a minute later, impossible. He's ahead of you, a couple miles up the road, when he was just a mile and a half behind on foot. You pass him again, eyes locked on the road ahead, waiting for him to vanish. This time, he's gone. You let out a sigh of relief and then glance in your rearview mirror. A shadow shifts in your backseat. You freeze, slowly turning around, and there he is, the hitchhiker, silent and staring. Okay, so here are my thoughts on the Phantom Hitchhiker on Highway 12. So it seems like in every state and even country, like there's some kind of version of a person or a hitchhiker walking on the side of a road, whether that be like a well-known road or just like a dark kind of scenic kind of road in a sense. And they somehow, like in Supernatural, there's a few episodes at least where it's just like the woman in white and you pass by her and she'll somehow end up in your car, or it may be a different urban legend or a story you may hear and they somehow just end up in front of you, or just like in this story he ends up a few feet ahead of you, or when you just saw him a few miles behind. So I think personally there are different types of hitchhiker stories or just paranormal stories / urban legends of like different people you may see, but they're not all the same, or they're just different people. But it does kind of make me wonder who the hitchhiker is or was, because he was wearing an army jacket, so it makes me wonder, was he in the army or just a person that liked camouflage kind of outfits, or if he had like a name. Obviously he probably had a name, but it kind of makes you wonder who it was and what was his story to just become the hitchhiker of Highway 12. But kind of thinking of this one, it really does remind me of Supernatural and like the different urban legends they may encounter or they encounter throughout the show, or the ones we hear when we're kids and we try to test them out, or some people may think they're not real or they could be real, but they did originate from something, and it makes you wonder where those urban legends came from and who came up with them, or if they have some kind of truth to them. And I'm sure they do, but it makes you wonder what may be added on to the urban legend was actually real about it, or if it had any realness to begin with. But I'll leave you with the question: what urban legend did you hear growing up or when you were a kid? And which ones do you think are real or made up? Or maybe you think all of them are made up. But which ones did you hear mostly growing up or when going to school? But that's my thoughts on the Phantom Hitchhiker on Highway 12. And on a lighter note, let's get into some book talk. So, sorry to disappoint you guys, but I do not have an update for Head Witch in Charge, as I've caught you guys up on what has happened so far and how far I've kind of read to at this point. But I will let you guys know what happens, I promise. But I think I'll get into some of my favorite characters that I've read about so far. And I kind of want to jump into characters from the Inheritance game series. So a few characters that I've liked from the Inheritance game series, because my perspective on each of the characters kind of changed, because in each book or like throughout the series the points of views kind of change. But I know in the Inheritance game series it was mostly just Avery's point of view. But I can tell you that some of my favorite characters are Nash, Xander, Max, Rebecca, and Grayson. And I had my opinions about him at first, but he kind of redeemed himself. And honestly, like I said, at some point I don't know, like with the other characters that I didn't mention, like my opinion of them kind of changed as the series kind of went on, because of just like choices they made, or it's just the actions they kind of did. But I know personally, I don't dislike them, but I just kind of feel some kind of way about them. And personally, I really wish, like, with some of the characters, well, the characters that I mentioned that were my favorite, like I said before, I do wish their point of views were more shown in the book. You kind of got their perspectives from other people's points of view. Like we got Grayson's point of view obviously, but it would have been nice to kind of get Nash's and Xander's and even Rebecca's because they're kind of tied. They're tied to the family, and Max's and Libby's because Max is Avery's best friend and Libby is Avery's sister. So it would have been nice to kind of hear what they kind of thought of things, like I mentioned before, and kind of see what's like going on in their head versus like the main characters. And I get their side characters, but it would have been interesting to kind of know what they were thinking throughout the series and just even in general. So hopefully in the future, Jennifer makes like a novella of their point of views, but that might not happen. And I'm kind of sad about it. But moving on to the next series, I would say when it comes to the Leica series, that the four characters that I like are Oscar, Jack, Elliot, and Tom. I would say this because like seeing them from other people's perspectives and how they're kind of like, I guess their personalities in the sense, I can kind of see, I guess, different traits that I kind of resonate with. I would say when it comes to Jack, like he's more of a observant person, especially like with him being more behind the scenes of things. As he helps with like recording the show, you kind of see like he's more perceptive to kind of like noticing small details or like learning new facts and stuff or different information. And I noticed like I kind of do that, like I'm more observant of things but also kind of like perceptive of like small details and just recognizing or seeing things that other people may not see. And then there's Oscar, I would say the foodie kind of aspect, but also kind of being responsible. He's also observant as a person, but also kind of like resonating with like, I guess, being queer or just like bi. And that kind of is nice to kind of see in a character kind of like representation and that kind of aspect. So it was kind of cool to see him kind of be, I guess, down to earth, but also kind of like his experience when he did come out, when he came out like in high school, it wasn't the best experience. And I would say, at least like with his like friends, I wouldn't say like I had friends in high school per se, but like I wasn't necessarily out to people in high school, more to kind of like my family. And I know like when it comes to like people kind of digesting that kind of information, they kind of have to adapt. Like it's more like how they gotta learn new things and how to kind of not say the wrong thing or anything like that. But also like my family being supportive and I know like with most people that's not the case, which sucks. And then I would say with Tom, like being kind of like showing perfectionism in a sense, or like doing things a certain way, or feeling like things have to be a certain way, just having like a plan and kind of things being structured. I feel like at times, like, yeah, it needs to be that way with me. And then Elliot, I would say like loyalty to kind of like my family, but I wouldn't say like to the extent of like how he is. I love my family and I like that he kind of has that like, he'll do anything for his family, but like to a certain extent, it's just like, it seems like he low key doesn't care much about himself or take care of himself as he should. And that kind of outweighs kind of like loyalty to family. Like finding that balance is important. And I know I find that balance within having loyalty to my family, but also having kind of like taking care of myself and self-care, which I'm still struggling with, but I'm starting to kind of like get a little bit better at it. And I love those four for that reason, because like I find different traits of those characters within myself, and it is interesting kind of seeing them from different people's points of view, or like who they may be to those people, or they may not know them as much as it seems, or like, well, not how they may not know them as much, so they're kind of just like, well, this person, or they kind of refer to them by their name, but like not really knowing much about them except, oh, he's this person, so and so forth. But those are my favorite characters from the Leica series. There are a few characters that are like, I would say I kind of also relate to Luna in a sense, because she likes space and she kind of is, I guess she would kind of describe herself as strange or weird, and I kind of would say that about myself as well. And I just like how she's kind of like a quirky person, so I would kind of relate to her on that. Like not necessarily fitting in within the social norms, or kind of seem as, oh, like she's kind of just kind of like not fitting within the social norm and kind of like beating to her own drum. And I like that about her. But yeah, like her character was kind of cool too, to kind of like see kind of like, I guess, change throughout the series. But other than that, I would say those are my favorite characters from the Leica series. I think another book series Another book series that comes to mind would have to be or book would have to be The Disasters, and it's by M.K. England. I don't know if people have heard of them, but they're a good author, and I've read 2 of their books. But this one specifically, like the main character, I could relate to him sometimes, or not sometimes, but he was relatable. And it's pretty much like, his name is Nax. I liked his character, and I like who he ended up with. I can't really think of his name right now, but he's a good character. I like Z. I think his love interest, like, who I can't really think of, I think his name was like Roy, or it was like Roy or something like that, but I like his character, and I think like he was good for him, then he was like a better match for him than the other love interest they kind of gave him, because I guess she kind of like, when they kind of found out, because they all kind of did something to kind of get kicked out of their, because it's placed in outer space. They're framed for, I guess, blowing up the academy, so they're trying to clear their names and kind of save the galaxy in the process. So it's interesting, but when they kind of, at least like when the other love interest finds out what Nax did, she's kind of more skeptical of him, because he like failed like his pilot test, and she was kind of more skeptical, and I was like, I kind of get that, because you're kind of driving them around, and but he always kind of put their safety first and not his. So like he was making sure like everyone was safe, and like he was kind of putting them first before himself, and that is important for sure, 100%. And I think another series which you guys will all know is The Six of Crow, and obviously you know who the author is. So I think a favorite character of mine, or a few of them actually, I like all the crows. I like Kaz. I don't want to get her in his love interest. I like her, and she's just a cool character. Like, she's a badass. I like her character. And then Jasper, Wayan. Wait, I think I know her name. Enid. I like her. She's a good character. Love her. But I liked all the crows, because they all worked as a team, even though they may have their own motives of kind of doing heists and what they needed to do. And it was interesting learning their backstories and like what kind of built them as characters, and it was interesting to see their characters change throughout the 2 books in the series. And I loved the show too. They did a good job with it. I'm sad they canceled it, but I loved all the characters in that book, as you all can tell. And then there's this one series, the Big Bad Wolf series. And okay, so there's Cooper, the main character, and then I'm trying to think of like his love interest's name. Park. His love interest's name is Park. And then there's like L, Park's ex, and he has his own series. And I hope the second book for his series comes out, because he's an interesting character. I love his character, because they don't really know his identity. They don't really know his real name or his identity, because it's not L. And then like at the end of the series, because there's 5 books, it was like Cooper kind of heard like a different accent. Like he sounded like he had a different accent. Like the voice he was kind of using now wasn't the actual way he talks. The actual way he talks, like you kind of train yourself to kind of speak a different way, to kind of like hide like an accent or something like that. And it seemed like he kind of did that. And he also has a twin sister that's in this organization. But it's a crazy series, and you should check it out. It's kind of like a hidden gem, if that makes sense. But a lot of people don't like Cooper's character. His character, I have no problem with his character. Park's character is good too. But if you kind of like paranormal werewolves, and kind of like, because they think he's like a special kind of like person, Cooper. They think Cooper's like a special person, so, but he doesn't really believe in it. But you just need to read more about you just need to read the series to understand. But like, it's a good series, and I definitely recommend it. It's by Charlie Adhara, and you should really check it out. There are a few other books that I have as well, but let me know if you want to hear a part 2 of my favorite characters. And that's it in the book talk for now. Now let's get into some random chaos. So obviously you guys know I want to be a journalist, but I also want to become an author too. Maybe even write my own stories for the podcast, if you guys are okay with that. But I will be honest with you guys, after my summer class, I will take a break from writing, and I may take a hiatus from the podcast. It just depends, because I am burnt out, and like mentally I kind of want to reset and kind of work on my mental health and heal better before making more episodes, because I want to give you guys good episodes and not kind of low quality episodes where I'm not doing well and I'm stressing myself out. But I will mention this again. I am happy to graduate and kind of just be able to finish college, because it is stressful and it's a lot of work, and it drains you. It drains you as a person. So taking a break from just doing work and writing will kind of be a huge relief off my chest, honestly. But back to the author and writing thing. I do have some characters that I've been working on since high school, and some I've came up with recently while I've been at college. And the first one, the main character that I made in high school and probably before then, his name is Lucky Davis. And I was going to make him either a journalist or a private investigator. It really just depends. He's grown with me as I've kind of gone throughout school. So it really just depends at this point. And the second one I came up with as I've kind of been in college is Seven Jennings. She's my second main character. And she is a drummer in a band and she's a chef at a restaurant. And I'm trying to figure out her story more. And I may revise Lucky's story and I'm okay with that. But it's just me just trying to figure out what works for my characters and what works for me with the stories and what may not work. And I'm up to hearing feedback or anything from you guys or what kind of direction that you think I should go with the characters, because I was thinking of making it both of the stories I want to have a paranormal or supernatural kind of elements to them, but I'm not really sure yet. So I'm kind of just figuring out what works best for each one, because I know with both the characters for sure 100% they're both quiet people. They've been through their shit and they don't take shit from people. And like I said, I like to think I'm that kind of person that doesn't really take shit from people, or just my face kind of says a lot when people just say strange things or just do things that are just kind of questionable. And then other times it's just I'm hard to read. So it really depends. But let me know if you guys want to hear more about those characters and their stories and any kind of information about them, because I'll figure out whether to talk about them in book talk or random chaos. Because at the end of the day, you guys are listening, so it's up to you to let me know what you guys want to hear versus me just kind of guessing. So I'll leave you guys on that note on random chaos. And that has been your cozy chaos for today. As we first went into The Phantom Hitchhiker on Highway 12 and moved into some book talk, and then ended on Writing Dreams and Burnout. If you felt at home, hit follow on Spotify for monthly and sometimes weekly episodes. Share your paranormal stories, urban legends, book recs, and chaos moments or character ideas, because your voice belongs here, and email below at themightychaospodcast@gmail.com. And this has been your host, Therese Hicks, signing off from the Mighty Chaos Podcast. Stay cozy. And this has been your host, Therese Hicks. Signing off from the Mighty Chaos Podcast. Stay curious and cozy, and tune in next week for the Bear Lake Monster.